So we have some more X-Men casting rumors. Apparently we've got some names bubbling up to play Cyclops in the MCU. Now, a lot of the names, like a Sadie Sink, like Ayo Adebri, like the boys that are linked with Cyclops, we've got to take with a grain of salt because we don't even have a director at this point. We don't have a director at this point for this movie. So we should pump it on the names unless they might be popping up in other stuff, which is also a possibility because the names we're hearing are for characters like obviously a Storm, Jean Grey, and Cyclops that we kind of are going to recognize regardless of who's playing them. Like they're one of those characters where regardless of who's playing it, we'll know that that's Storm, that's Jean Grey, that's Cyclops. So maybe there is a potential that they do show up in a movie before we get our solo X-Men movie, or we get solo X-Men movies before our group X-Men movie. However they kind of want to play that. According to Jeff Snyder, Harris Dickinson of Baby Girl, Iron Claw, and Triangle of Sadness might be one of the actors Marvel Studios is looking at to play the leader of the Team Cyclops in the long-awaited reboot. This follows an earlier rumour which claimed that another name, Jack Champion, from Avatar and Scream 6, is also being eyed for the part. Snyder also does note that this isn't anything concrete, this is just something he's kind of heard through the grapevine, which is why he didn't sort of lump it with the Sadie and Io rumour. He kind of just feels like he's aware of their interest in Harris Dickinson. And why shouldn't they be? The dude is on such a come up. He's really good, okay? He's incredible in the Triangle of Sadness. In a movie with the Iron Claw that's obviously kind of resting on Zac Efron's shoulders, and there are other names like a Jeremy Allen White in there. Out of all the brothers, he stood out the most, and he was so good in that. The guys were getting ready to play John Lennon for Sam Mendes, so he's already on the up. I'm not surprised that Marvel would be interested in a guy like Harris. So, but for Cyclops, I wouldn't have seen this coming at all. And that's purely because I don't want X-Men babies. And it looks like that's what we're getting. And I really don't want X-Men babies. I'd want my Cyclops seasoned, battle-scarred. I don't want Cyclops from, oh my god, I just blew a hole through the toilet doors at my high school. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're to the point where I still don't think we've done Cyclops justice. Obviously, James Marsden could have because he's got the potential, but the way the movie's planned out, not really. So, it's also interesting. I'm intrigued at how are they going to play the X-Men in this. Obviously, I talked about the potential of these guys maybe popping up earlier than we thought because of these names kind of bubbling to the surface and a lot of people hearing these names before we even have a director. Low-key, before we really have an official release date that they are going to stick to. So the fact that we've gotten these kind of names might lean towards the fact that we might see them earlier. But is it a case of how do you want to play this? Are we thinking group X-Men movie and then branch off into solo movies? Or are we thinking maybe solo movies building up to an X-Men movie? Because remember, the way Marvel initially did it was they had the solo Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and then they had the Avengers. I mean, like George Miller and the plan originally at DC was kind of to go, let's do the group and then branch off. And I think that's the way forward, especially with the X-Men. I don't want our first introduction to the X-Men. It's fine having them as cameos, but I don't want our first introduction into MCU X-Men to be a solo Storm movie. Like, I don't want that. I want our first introduction. If we're having our first X-Men movie under a Marvel banner, I want it to be an X-Men movie. I just think it should be. I think that's the way forward. And the best way to do that is make sure we absolutely fall in love with the X-Men. We fall in love with the people that they've introduced, the mutants that they've introduced. We fall in love with Gambit, for example. And now, okay, I want to see Gambit on a solo mission in the swamps of New Orleans, fighting off some gambling debts. Now let me see that movie. Because I've already established my love for him in that original X-Men movie. Same thing of, I want to see now a Summers family movie because I'm in love with sort of the interaction between Jean and Cyclops, and maybe we can use it as a way to bring in Cable. I mean, the X-Men and the mutants from Marvel now surely are going to have to be their long-term plan, especially after this multiverse saga, which I think they're trying to wrap up as quickly as possible, obviously. So from the next, after Secret Wars, the next 10 to 15 years can be purely X-Men movies, and I don't think anyone would complain. I mean, I hope we still get maybe Daredevil, Moon Knight, stuff like that on Disney+, but I really don't think why Marvel would need to make anything other than X-Men movies in the next 10 15 years, and I don't think they would. I think they're also in a position where they're coming from a place of fear of, okay, a lot of stuff hasn't been working for us, so the X-Men and the Fantastic Four might be our biggest bets moving forward. And I think they're really going to cash in on the X-Men. So I honestly think the way forward is to maybe go for the DC approach, maybe go for the George Miller approach, maybe go for, let's start with an X-Men movie, make people fall in love with these single mutants, and then give them those spin-offs, you know? Here go 2 more for you. Do you know what I mean?
Thank y'all for taking on this ride with me. Yeah. You know what? Here go 2 more for y'all. Yeah.
You like that X-Men movie? Well, guess what's coming up in the summer? A solo Iceman movie and a solo Jubilee movie. There go 2 more for you. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to like, oh, let me get a solo Nightcrawler movie, and then a solo Azazel movie, and then a solo Angel movie, and then, oh, we're finally leading up to the X-Men because we've got them all together. Nah, man, I don't want that. But then, don't get me wrong, we can still have such variety of, once we're in the whole mutant saga, bro, go deep with it. I want to see a Disney Plus show where we're following this kid joining the Brotherhood. Do you know what I mean? The Mutant Brotherhood. Or we get a family on the run. We can play with it so much. I mean, the family on the run has kind of been done before, but we could play with it so many different ways and so many different avenues. It's so vast, especially when we're playing with these mutant storylines. And I hope we don't just go, let's do Wolverine stories. Nah, man. We need to relax on Wolverine. Let's make him a bit part character. Give it to Daniel Radcliffe. Stick him on the side. Come in when we need him to, puff a couple cigars, and we're good. I don't need you to be leading Days of Future Past, alright, bro? Stay in your lane, okay? This is different people time to shine. Let's have Storm be impactful in this. Let's have Scott be big in this. Let's make sure that the X-Men don't just feel like Hugh Jackman and the people behind him, okay? Let's make it feel like a family of mutants, and let's lean into the family dynamics. Let's have the kind of soap opera feel to an X-Men, because at the end of the day, the dynamic relationships between them, so-and-so did this with so-and-so, so-and-so skipped school, so-and-so did that, is a big part of the X-Men. It's a big part of the X-Men. There's a lot of gossipy and caddiness going on at the X-Men in the Mutant Mansion, so let's play into that, please. Please, okay? In terms of Harris Dickinson specifically for Cyclops, going back to that, I'm not mad at him being our Scott Summers. I just don't want to start off with them being so young, okay? If we're coming in as an audience member and you want to give us someone to latch onto, someone to be our perspective in the movie, so that when we're introduced to things for the first time, it can be through the vessel of somebody, I understand. Make that a single mutant. We already done that before and it works. Rogue, Jubilee in the animated show, okay? It makes sense. But to have it all become about this ragtag group of mutants starting it up, and mate, we've been there, done that, and I don't want to have origin stories for a bunch of mutants that I know. I don't want to have like 16-year-old Storm. I just don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I really don't, okay?